For LandPost.com, I'm Michael Oleaga, and this is Turnout, the political series featuring government leaders and national advocates discussing what's most important to the Latino voting bloc. The Democratic National Committee is already preparing for the 2016 presidential election season. With the U.S. Latino population steadily increasing, they have become a necessary electorate for major political parties to attract. While Latinos have been stereotyped to be liberal or Democratic-leaning, the Democratic Party is still making the effort to work for their vote. The DNC continued to cement its outreach with the addition of Pablo Manriquez as their Director of Hispanic Media. We spoke with him about the 2016 election, the candidates, and the issues.
First of all, in the future, this election is going to be about the issues. So one of the things you're going to see, especially in the Hispanic component of the 2016 campaign, is a divergence between one party, the Democrats, who are both aligned with and informed by Hispanic political values. On the other side, the Republicans, who are unaligned with and trying to inform, not sort of a non-Hispanic political values to Hispanic voters. So that'll be a big divergence in this campaign.
Sure. And how would you, compare and contrast the DNC efforts compared to the RNC?
Well, like I said, I think that, for the DNC, we're making this election about the issues. The RNC is trying new things. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like what they're trying is necessarily informed by Hispanics at a high level. It's sort of like, Republicans informing Hispanics about what they need to tell Hispanics, whereas here, Hispanics have been involved at a high level for a long time and continue to do so. So it's sort of engaging about Hispanics engaging with the party about what is important to us and how to speak about those issues and how to deploy our own campaign infrastructure into Hispanic communities in a way that's both sort of informative for us and informative to the voter.
Continue with the 2016 election. What are your thoughts about, let's say, fellow Latino, Marco Rubio?
So I guess I envision a scenario where, there's a lot's been said. I'll acknowledge a lot has been said about how the Republican Party has been fielding some new faces, and some of these faces, like Marco Rubio, actually speak Spanish, so I'm envisioning a scenario where Marco Rubio is in, Nevada, or I'm a Nevada voter, a Hispanic voter. I hear a knock on my door, and I open the door, and it's Marco Rubio, and and not only is it Hispanic, but he speaks my language, and then he tells me, I want to take away your health insurance. I want to roll back DACA, or the president's plan to protect immigrant youth. And you could tell me these things in the most beautiful Spanish ever said, but I'm not going to vote for you. These are issues, like I said before, they're completely unaligned with Hispanic political values. So that's, I think that the developments on the Republican side are interesting, but not compelling. They're not compelling at the level of the issues, and the issues ultimately are what the American voter votes on. I don't think that you can just fool Hispanic voters into being enthusiastic about a candidate who does speak Spanish but wants to deport our parents or wants to take away our health insurance. 4.2 million Latinos have been covered by Obamacare. It's an extremely popular policy amongst Latinos, and Marco Rubio has for years railed against it. The Republican field really is railed against it. The Republican Party has been out to destroy it from the beginning. So, the bilingual infrastructure developments within the Republican Party are certainly a step forward, I guess, from zero of the 2008 and 2012 election campaigns, but 2008 and 2012 election defeats and serious defeats at the hands of Latino voters of the Republican Party. But they still haven't learned the lessons of actually listening to what Hispanic political values are and reacting accordingly with their own policy messages.
Somebody else that's also fluent in Spanish is Jeb Bush. So what are your thoughts about Jeb now that he's officially in this race?
Well, my thoughts about Jeb are that it takes, so, again, like moving back, this is, it being an election about the issues, I think a serious liability in that regard to Jeb Bush's prospects with Hispanic voters is that he doesn't favor a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants in this country. Every single Democratic Party presidential candidate for the 2016 election favors a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants in this country. Jeb doesn't. And granted, it takes a lot of courage to stand up for immigrants and to stand by undocumented immigrants. These are some of the most vulnerable, this is one of the most vulnerable populations in the United States. They don't vote, they can't vote yet. And that that Jeb refuses to stand by them and support the normalization of their lives, or at least even a minimal measure like the president's executive or actions, DACA and DAPA. This is a plan. Basically, this is a plan. Not basically, just specifically to keep immigrant families together, to give immigrant youth reprieves from the terror of detention and deportations. And Jeb can't even, just put politics aside for a moment and support and stand with immigrant families. That's very troubling. Mm. That's very troubling. So, and sadly, it's just not unique in the Republican field. There is not a single Republican candidate who supports the president's plan to keep families together, and it's shameful. I think it's gonna cost them dearly this election.
Speaking with Republicans, they mentioned how this current election for the Democratic side is basically a coronation for one particular candidate. What's your response to critics that have said that this is just a giveaway, go-to for Hillary?
Well, I think that, like every election, it's an election about the issues first. And on the issues, the Democratic Party stands aligned with Hispanic political values on many, many issues. And the Republican Party simply does not.
So the notion that it's a coronation for one particular candidate, you're completely against that notion?
I think it's an election about the issues. It's not about any particular candidate. Obviously, a good portion of the Republican Party is now running for president. So that's making it into a sort of cacophony of awkward moments. Every week, it seems the Republican Party has another foot in mouth moment that it's kind of like, it's hard to describe. It's like traffic, like you just sort of like cars stuck in traffic and honking at one another, not sure like exactly when they're going to start moving, just knowing that they're going to go in one direction and that's the wrong direction for this country. On our side, of course, we have and again, I'm the Hispanic Media Director, so speaking to Hispanic issues, we have a field that is united on issues of citizenship, on issues of healthcare, of issues of education, LGBT rights, climate. I think that one of the most clear-cut examples of that is that we are the party of citizenship. And that, like I said before, it takes courage to stand with this extremely vulnerable population that can't yet vote. We're doing it because it's the right thing to do. That's what Democrats do, and Democrats have stood by immigrants and stand by immigrants in this election. The Republicans, though, they haven't been able to summon that same courage. I mean, if you look at Marco Rubio in particular, it was a very exciting thing to see him a couple of years ago move forward to take like a leading role on an immigration reform bill that the Senate found agreeable. But as soon as John Boehner and the Tea Party fringe of the Republican Party got involved, he backed away. He ran away from his own bill. He drafted a bill and then he left it to die. And in doing so, he demonstrated to immigrants, not just across the country, but throughout the Americas, this was huge news, that he was someone who wasn't going to stand on principle for immigrants. He was just going to do what was politically expedient in the moment. It was a mistake on his part, and it's one that, unfortunately, he's only gone further away from standing with immigrant relief It's not just Marco Rubio, obviously. Donald Trump just declared for office the other day, and he's not only did he, have some very, very offensive things to say about Mexicans, he too wants to build a huge wall along the Rio Grande, a huge and expensive wall to stop, during a time during a time when migration has plummeted to this country. So, none of these candidates are willing to stand with immigrants, especially undocumented immigrants. And that is absolutely, it's offensive to the Hispanic political sensibility. I mean, and I think that the most telling stat in that regard is that 90% of Hispanics in this country favor the president's plan to keep families together. They're in favor of it. 70% of Republican Hispanics feel the same way. Unfortunately, this 70% of Republican Hispanics, this immensely popular measure that the president's offered Hispanics, the Hispanics within the Republican Party who support it, they don't have a voice at that high level of the Republican Party that decides how they as a party are going to move forward with engaging Hispanics. They are unheard. And so as a result, every single candidate in the Republican field is not only ignoring Hispanics generally, but they're ignoring their own Hispanics on this issue.
For more editions of Turnout, visit landpost.com and don't forget to follow us online. I'm Michael Oleaga, and this has been Turnout.